We're going to take you on a walking tour through the medieval town of Vence in the south of France. This small picturesque village with its pedestrian zone makes a very worthwhile day trip. It's an easy bus ride from Nice. It takes just over 1 hour to get there. And in the morning, the buses leave about every half hour. Taking the bus is a very nice way to meet some locals.
Bonjour!
It only costs €1.50 for the bus ticket, so this is a very good bargain. There's no train service to Vence, so you need to come by bus if you're coming by public transportation. The bus will drop you off just outside the old town at Place du Grand Jardin. The Tourist Information Office has got maps and brochures and friendly people there who can answer your questions. It's always a good idea to get some local information from an expert and some free maps. And this lady was happy to tell us about the old town and suggest a walking route for us. Vence is a small village, roughly circular in shape, only about 300 meters across. And here's the route that we'll be taking through the little lanes of Vence, maybe the size of 6 football fields, so you can easily see it in a few hours walking around, which is what we are going to do. You see this gateway, that was part of the original fortified wall around the village, and anytime you have a wall and a medieval village, you're likely to find a well-preserved old town, as we have done once again here in Vence. You really cannot get lost when you're inside the old town of Vence because it's so small, but you might get a little confused by these twisting footpaths. Just keep in mind there is one primary route and several plazas, but the village is only 300 meters wide, so just feel free to wander. Walk along the main lane and deviate down the little side alleys, come on back to the main lane, and walk both directions. It's interesting whether you're coming or going. Vence is one of those rare medieval towns in France that still has its wall all the way around it. It provides a feeling of safety and protection. Even today, some remain vigilant, standing at guard. And this fellow was keeping his eyes out on the goings-on down below. The old town was entirely surrounded by ramparts, built in the 13th and 14th centuries. Within and above the ramparts rose the town, like a castle of stone, elliptical in shape. When you exit the old town through the stone gateway and then turn and look back at the outside of the wall, you find that the wall has been converted into homes. There are windows, and it has become a circle of housing that reinforces the wall that goes all the way around the old town. Walking outside the wall helps you quickly get from one gate to the next so you can save a little time and cover more area. For now, we suggest you continue outside the walls for a couple more blocks before plunging back in. And walking along the busy Avenue de la Résistance gives you a view of the new town of Vence, which is also attractive. You'll find small hotels and restaurants and various shops here. Now we're walking back into the old town through a different gateway in the northwest corner of the wall. This will put you in very good position to complete your circular exploration of the entire old town. The little lanes that we're showing you here are kind of off the beaten track. Most visitors would just come down the main central lane and perhaps look at the church and leave, but each of these back alleys is quite interesting and worth a look. When you're in the center of Vence, you find yourself in a very special place. These buildings are made of stone. They're 500 years old. They've got bars and cafes and restaurants, and they've got shops. Somehow it's modern with all of the latest conveniences, and yet at the same time, you're looking back into some deep history. And then we arrive at the very oldest part of this historic town. The cathedral, Our Lady of Nativity, is the smallest cathedral in Provence, if not all of France. And yet it's built on the foundations of an ancient Roman temple from the 4th century, and the current building took shape in the 11th and 12th centuries in the Romanesque style. Quite remarkably, for such a small building, they have an original mosaic mural by Marc Chagall, one of the great artists of the 20th century who lived nearby. There's a charming collection of photographs of all the babies that have been baptized here in the cathedral, showing this is still very much an active church. And facing it on the place is the City Hall of Town, the usual pattern forming the main square. As we walk along these narrow lanes inside the old town, it's interesting to reflect back on the history that led to the creation of such an attractive and yet strongly fortified village, crowded with houses of great age. Within the walls of the town, there is much to attract the student of ancient history. Who first marked out this storied spot for human habitation? It was at a very early period, the capital of a primitive Ligurian tribe called the Nerusi. Vence was occupied in turn by the Phoenicians, the Phocians, and the Gauls. By and by, the town was conquered by the Romans, and under the name Civitas Venticulum, speedily attained to great importance as a central depot for the army. At the beginning of the Christian era, it was connected by a splendid road, a branch of the old Via Julia Augusta, with Semise and Vado at the southern Italian routes, along with extensive traffic carried along it. The Place Godeau in the middle, behind a fountain, is shaded by 3 large chestnut trees and contains some ancient houses. During the Middle Ages, Vence was a stronghold of the Holy Roman Empire. Much of the medieval still survives in Vence, as in other hill towns of the Riviera. These early years were a time of growth for the little city, and she prospered in her medievalism. High on her hill, she was too difficult to access and suffer greatly from any marauding foes. She was hidden from the sea and did not attract the Mediterranean pirates who were roaming at large. Vence is a quiet, dreamy place. It was especially nice to visit it during the off-season. The program you're watching was photographed in November, and that's a very quiet time of year. And then we're getting back on the bus and continuing our journey. It makes a good day's outing to visit Vence along with some nearby villages, especially Saint-Paul-de-Vence, which is only about a mile away, and the town of Coste, another very beautiful hillside medieval town that we're showing you in other movies on our YouTube channel. We'll be taking you there in other episodes. We have created many more movies about this area, the Côte d'Azur, the French Riviera, that you can find on our channel, so have a look. You'll see programs about Cannes and Monaco, Monte Carlo, St. Paul, Vence, Villefranche, all around through the region, including Antibes. And we really enjoy using Nice as our home base to explore this entire region.